Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. Now, just a word here. I'm going to do two back-to-back videos this morning, so I'm not going to change my shirt. But I want to get these two, shall we say, in the can, because there's such continuity between them. There will actually be total continuity between these and the rest of them that I'm going to do this week. But just a word, just a heads up there. We have begun a series on the Olivet Discourse. And by the way, thank you so very much for all the wonderful private messages, for all both the Facebook messages and YouTube video messages saying how glad you are that we're going to start this series. Obviously, and I knew this to be the case, when I asked for recommendations and suggestions for a topic to cover, the Olivet Discourse was far and away, I mean, not even close, but far and away, the number one recommendation and request. And so I'm very eager to get started. I have to tell you a little anecdote here. When I was a young man, every Sunday afternoon, my father, my brother-in-law, my oldest brother, after church and after the meal, would gather in a room and talk Bible. And the Olivet Discourse wound up being, time after time after time, the focus of the discussion. I remember my father saying over and over again how perplexed he was over the Olivet Discourse. Because he would say something like this: I know that Matthew 24, 29 to 31 predicted the coming of the Lord. But I also know that verse 34 said it was going to happen in that generation. I know it didn't happen in that generation, but I don't know how to explain that. Now, unfortunately, my father was completely, totally unfamiliar with the use of apocalyptic language. He did not even understand the term. He was totally unfamiliar with the Old Testament usage of the language of the Lord coming out of heaven on the clouds in flaming fire with the sound of a trumpet, with a shout, and the angels. He did not know of how that language was used in the Old Testament. Reason for that being, we were part of a fellowship that taught, and that still teaches, God was through with Israel at the cross. God nailed the Old Covenant to the cross. We don't even really need to study it today. Oh, well, we talk about Noah and we talk about Daniel in the lion's den, but we don't really go to the Old Testament to understand Jesus and his mission. We don't go to the Old Testament to understand the language of the New Testament. And as a result of that mindset, there was no tendency, there was no practice of trying to harmonize the Old Testament with the New. By the way, that same tendency continued when I was in seminary. There was tremendous confusion over the Olivet Discourse and the correlation between what Jesus predicted and what was predicted in the Old Testament. So in this series, I'm going to do my best to share with you that Jesus in Matthew 24 in the Olivet Discourse was drawing extensively from the Tanakh, the Old Covenant. Number two, I'm going to share with you, and this is more just introduction again, I'm going to share with you how Jesus incorporates the Jewish feast days in his prediction in Matthew 24 and 25, and show you how that had to have been fulfilled in the first century. Okay. With that said, in order to understand Matthew 24 and 25, oh, by the way, I can't forget this. Sorry about this digression. Do not forget Preterist Pilgrim Weekend 2019, which will be July the 11th, 12th, and 13th here in Ardmore, Oklahoma. The topic, our theme is how we can know we are not living in the last days. Okay? So make your plans to be with us. Okay, now, if we do not understand the context of Matthew 24, we are doomed to misinterpret it. What is the context? Well, it's very clearly Jesus walking out of the temple and the disciples showing him the massive stones of that temple. Do you realize that the construction stones of that Jerusalem temple were among the largest construction stones, architectural stones, that have been found anywhere for any building throughout the entire history of the world? That's how big they were. Okay. But the question is, why was why were the apostles pointing out the size and the beauty of those stones? I mean, after all, they'd been there many times. They went there 3 times a year. So why is it on this occasion, and the only occasion during Jesus' entire ministry, that we are told that the disciples began to point to the stones of the temple? Well, context. You see, it's unfortunate to me that many commentators just jump right in with Matthew 24, when the reality is that the context of Matthew 24 is chapter 23. Now, I'm not going to do a verse by verse of chapter 23. I just simply want to point out that beginning with verse 29 and following, we have Jesus pronouncing impending judgment on Jerusalem and the temple. He warned them that they, the Jews of his day, were the sons of their fathers who had slain the prophets. In verse 29 and following, he testified of that, and he said, I'm going to send my apostles, my prophets to you. You're going to kill them. You're going to fill up the measure of your father's guilt. Upon you will come all of the righteous blood of all of the righteous shed upon the earth, from righteous Abel unto Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all of these things shall come upon this generation. Now watch. What is Jesus predicting? Judgment on them for filling up the measure of their father's guilt. What does he then say? O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest those who are sent unto thee, pardon me, how often I would have gathered you together unto me, as a mother hen gathers her chicks, but you would not. Behold, your house, that's that temple, is left to you desolate. So what do we have in Matthew chapter 23? We have a prediction of the judgment of Jerusalem and the temple. And by the way, Jesus then says, you will not see me again henceforth until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Well, here we have then, yes, we have a prediction of the fall of Jerusalem and the temple, but now we have a prediction of the yet future restoration of Israel. And that means another temple. Oh, wait, is that what it means? Folks, this is the context of Matthew 24. Undoubtedly and unequivocally, Jesus was predicting the judgment on Jerusalem and the temple. But was he predicting a yet future to him and to us restoration of Israel at his, quote, second coming? The answer to that is no, and I will prove that to you on the flip side. In the meantime, hey look, don't forget, for the month of January, I'm offering a 2-book special. I don't want you to forget this, what a great deal it is. Seal Up Vision and Prophecy, 70 weeks are determined for the resurrection. If you bought these books separately, they would cost you $35. For the month of January, total delivered price is $25. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. There's a banner at the top of the page to take advantage of this very special January 2019 special. Okay, on tomorrow's program, on the flip side, I'm going to show you that the context of Matthew 24 is in fact the judgment of Jerusalem, and it is not a yet future coming of the Lord. I'll see you there.